beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Times gone by, I've traded black dirt into clay. I thought my memories would end. One street over's now 1,000 miles away. When I close my eyes, I'm back to where I've been. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Okay, let's get to it. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn LaVern, and yeah, this is One Street Over. What's going on One Street Over from where you live? And just visiting with my friend, Dr. Danny Weeks. He is our director of schools here in Robertson County. And, we're just talking all the holiday stuff and what we did and all that. And as, I mentioned, I was in the Great White North. And, my brother-in-law sent me pictures where I think they had 14, 15 inches of snow. The day we drove up, they were getting this big snowfall. So we got there and it was just wonderful. We were, locked into the deer camp up in the Great White North in the northern woods, and it backs up next to a state forest. So it's just pristine. And it's property that his brother owns, and then the property next is his nephew owns. And so it's family land. It's just neat. And it's just fun being up there and kind of being secluded. But Dr. Weeks was asking me if we can drive around in that stuff. And that's the thing up north now, as they're getting it and it's coming down, they may call off schools, but then they just clear the roads and they go back to school.
So 14 inches of snow here would keep us out for a month, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Or two.
Oh, yeah, because it doesn't thaw.
Right.
They might get some warmer temperatures. And actually, right before we went up, they didn't have a ton of snow. And then just, the day we were driving up, because we went between Christmas and New Year, and we drove up on, I guess, we left out that Monday morning. And, we had so much fun. It was just wonderful.
That's
but yeah, I get my fill of snow up in the Great White North. Now, you were saying that your daughter was up with, who was it?
She had an opportunity. Somebody she was in college with owned some property in upstate New York.
Yeah.
But we were invited up there a few times, but just never took advantage of going up there. But I've always
you should have.
I've never been snowmobiling and things like that, so I'd love to do that. And those sound like such fun things to do.
It is, and it's one of those. If you ever get the opportunity to go somewhere in the Great White North, I highly advise you to give it a shot, because it is really, really cool, and it's just so much fun. And you see snowfall like none of us around here ever see.
Right.
We talk about the snowfall that we get, and we speculate what would happen if we got that kind of snow, but we would warm up. I mean, we have our temps will change. And up there, I mean, you get to a place where it gets cold and it just never warms up enough to fully melt it. We actually drove up to Lake Superior, which is in Marquette, and right there, and they're over 100 inches now that they've gotten since the season began. And of course, some of it's melted and those kinds of things, but it's just cool. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun to go and be a part of it. And I highly advise, if you get an opportunity to go up north and see that crazy snowfall, it's good. It's fun. It's fun. But now, what are we thinking here? Somebody said that we actually have a threat of it coming in Wednesday. Have you heard that at all, Dr. Weeks?
Well, we're in contact and we get regular updates from NOAA. The National Weather Service and NOAA, and they send the same slides to us that they send to news stations and weather stations. And so it did see some cool rain coming in Wednesday night. They're predicting more or less that it might be over in the East Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau and things there. But I think we'll get some very cool rain. I don't think it's going to be anything that interrupts us here.
Well, and see, that's the thing. All the kids are like, "Did you hear Miss Vivio? They're saying that we might get some snow.
Right.
We might get some snow Wednesday." And I'm like, I don't think so.
I mean,
everything that I'm looking at says, it's just going to be kind of wet and cold.
Right.
And this is the way it is. So I think we're going to be fine. Now, I mean, we're a long way from. We're just, not even really at the official halfway point of January, and really some of our biggest snows and things we get are on into February.
Sure.
Even into March. I talk a lot about my brother was born on the first day of spring, and one of the biggest snows we ever received in West Kentucky, just a couple hours from here, was on his date of his birth. So it happens. So get ready for it.
Well, you were talking about the holiday break, and I think everybody needed that, and I think it's such a good time to both for students to get their minds rested and sometimes get caught up on some work they might be behind in. Staff need it. We need that break from just that intensive and that pressure and the stress that's there on the job. And everybody needs breaks. Everybody needs holidays. We even took some at our house. Our office closed a few days during the break, and several folks took some vacation. But we have to kind of work year round and work around some of those things. But as you mentioned, we're back. I know teachers had staff development a week ago on Monday and came back, and that was a good way. I heard a lot of good conversations about the networking that teachers had from across the county, planning for second semester, getting ready to go. And I guess this is about 6 or 7 days back into school now. So, I think we can go another day or two without some snow. And again, we're not predicting either way. But the King holiday coming up on Monday.
We'll be off on Monday.
Gives us another break there. But then it's a pretty good while until I think President's Day would be the next break coming up. And that's that'll be a month away. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some snow in there. But again, I don't get paid to predict it. We just got to react to that.
I got to be honest with you, though. I'm so busy. The breaks, I do enjoy them. I got too much to do. We need to be in class. I mean, between trying to keep, because we do news 3 days a week and trying to keep that up. And it just seems like everywhere we turn, there's a little project, that we don't want to say no to. Right. We have a project today, and I'm so excited about it. Some of our kiddos that were discovered during the talent show that we had in the fall. I'm just so thrilled with the outcome of all that. And we're going to have a spring talent show as soon as we get back from spring break. But some of those kiddos, they're writing original music. We're going to be doing a music video, and this is the brainchild of Jesse Castillo, just brilliant creative person. And they're going to record that in the book bus behind our classroom, and we're going to be, pushing that out and sending that up to the state to let them see what we did with the grant money for that book bus and just how we can showcase our students and their incredible talent. I'm so excited about that. And that's another thing that's busy. Are you going to be able to come by? I know they put the invitation out for a lot of folks.
They did put the invitation out. Yeah. Unfortunately, today, as we start talking about coming back for the new year, today's the day we start planning for the new year with principals and our staff.
Okay.
So today, excuse me. Today, we're actually starting. We have 4 what we call mid-year principals meetings.
Okay.
So we had scheduled those before you'd scheduled yours, and it's It's a time that our principals come together and we talk to them about data, and we talk about how the first semester's gone, and elementary schools and middle schools talk to us about their benchmark testing and growth that they've seen from benchmark 1 to benchmark 2. And we talk about predicting and where we're going towards EGAP. We talk about attendance rates. We talk about just everything that's going on in their school, and they kind of give a mid-year report to my executive staff, and we look at that. We have conversations with them, any things we need to change, and do that. But we also start planning for 26, 27. Hard to believe.
No, but you have to.
We do, and we get a good list of maintenance concerns and things that we want to budget for from a perspective there. We also start talking about projections of numbers of students who come in. And so we look at feeder school patterns, for instance, fifth graders who would be going into middle schools, middle school, eighth graders who would be going into high school as freshmen. And so we spend about an hour and a half with each principal and talk to them about their school, things that they need for this year to finish up, and things that they're going to need for next year and project to do for next year. And that helps us build our budget. It helps us make a list of teachers that we might know that we need vacancies, or, if there's a vacancy coming because of growth, if someone's already notified us that they're going to be retiring and things like that. So we start building a list of jobs to post and things of that nature. So we start that today, and we're going pretty solid for about 12 days on that. So it's a lengthy process to have that conversation with each principal.
Well, it sounds like you're going to get it done about the time we get ready for the countywide graduation, midterm graduation, because we've got the early graduates going to happen. I think it's actually next Thursday, though, so y'all will still be in the middle of that. Yeah,
we will.
It's next Thursday, and so we'll all be at Springfield High School for that.
That's right.
In the evening, and yes, I will be there. My kiddos are like, "You're coming, right, Miss Vivio?" And it's like, absolutely, and because we've got some of the kids in my program that are graduating early, and we already miss them.
Yeah, and that's such a neat opportunity for families, because there's some students that are very motivated. They know what they want to do. They've got in there and they've taken the classes they needed. They've planned, and again, that takes a lot of work with counselors. That takes a lot of work with teachers to make sure that they've met all the graduation requirements. But as you talked about these students, they know what they want to do. A lot of them have jobs lined up. Some of them have college lined up or other training. And so they're getting, we actually go ahead and have the graduation ceremony, give them their diplomas, and they're off to the world.
They're off on their way. There you go. So we'll have that coming up. And then you're talking about what's the timeline when y'all actually do the budget? Is that in the spring? Because, you're building up all that, or is that coming up pretty soon?
We will start, and again, today we're going to have 4 principal conferences. So as they make requests, we start jotting those down. And so after we finish all of the meetings, then I meet with my department heads.
Okay.
And so we talk about their needs and about what they need to, what they need and want. Mm-hmm. And so from those meetings, we will start late February pulling all those numbers together and making projections and, kind of deciding what we can put in a budget and what we cannot and what needs to be left out, and, prioritizing what our district leadership sees as needs for next year.
Okay.
And so we'll start putting that budget together, probably have a good draft of it in early March. But from March, April, May, kind of refining, looking at revenues from the county, and getting that down to the county commission, getting them to take a look at that.
And since you mentioned county commission, they will be moving their meeting. It will not be coming up on Monday because of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. They'll move that into the next week. So they always make that adjustment for January and February, the Martin Luther King holiday, and then also President's Day. So those will be a week later, just kind of a side note there since you mentioned the commission.
Right.
So you had your board meeting. Your board meeting, though, is not affected by these winter holidays. Y'all hit them still on the second Monday, and y'all had your meeting last night. So do you want to jump right into it?
Sure, we did.
What we got?
And we had that conversation yesterday. Somebody in the office asked about the weather. They said if we ever missed a board meeting because of weather. And I been doing this a long time. I can't think of any. I think back to the year of 9/11. I guess that was 2001. And I remember we had a board meeting scheduled that night, and really there was a lot of uncertainty what was going on in the world.
Oh, wow.
When
So
that happened.
the
And
night
so
of 9/11, y'all
yeah,
had
we
one. Okay.
we actually and they came together and spent about less than 5 minutes and just adjourned real quickly and let
Yeah.
everybody go back home. But that's the only time in my career that I can remember
Interesting.
not having a board meeting. So
That's very interesting because you would think that ice or something would
yeah,
would pause you
during
at some point.
during that
Yeah.
period of time. But
Yeah, that's
um,
really interesting, especially in the January and February is always
mhm,
kind of we have our it's our prep night coming up, and that's one of those things that's notoriously, that from what I've heard at Greenbrier, because I think we had to reschedule it once already since I've been there, but it's in early February. I'm wanting to say it's like it's the first Thursday night in February. We're having our prep night for the incoming eighth graders, and also
right.
the ninth graders are invited to go because there's a lot of things they still don't really realize. And so those are the things that they're like, okay, we're going to try to have it. We're hoping that the weather will hold. So anytime you schedule those kinds of things, you're kind of going, yeah, surely it'll be all right. But very good then. So what else did you guys get into?
Well, the first thing we talked about was we recognized a staff member, and all of our staff members do such a great job. And I know we talk about personnel, almost every time we're together. But last night we recognized Terry Baird. She's a staff assistant over at Crestview Elementary School, and we found during the month of December we had a student during lunch in the cafeteria who was choking on his food.
Mm-hmm.
And so Miss Baird, just quickly, just as she'd been trained to do, came right in, performed the Heimlich maneuver, and saved that child's life.
Wow.
And so, just to bring that before the board, before the public's attention, and to say, we think about teaching and learning, we think about mentoring students, we think about helping them grow. But, just an instance right there to depend upon the training we've received and to jump in and to save that young child's life.
Mm-hmm.
So, she was recognized last night, and just so proud of her and so proud of everybody. I know sometimes going through those trainings that we have to do, the bloodborne pathogens, the CPR, all of those things, the Heimlich maneuver, those basic first aid things. And, our coaches have to go through those that are out, on football fields and band and all of the concussion protocols and everything they deal with in dealing with student health. And, I guess that's one of those things, just like many of our drills, we hope we never have to use those. We hope we never have to think about those things in school, but someone being prepared and jumping right in and doing a good job. So I think she's representative of a lot of our staff who are ready to do that and prepared to do that. And we just wanted to let her know how much we appreciate her work and being able to do that. And
Very cool.
Yeah, wasn't it neat? But the next big thing, and last night was a pretty short meeting. This time of year, there's we've had that little break, and it's not been, I guess, but about 10 days since we've been in school, since we had our last board meeting. So because of the holidays and everything. But last night the board approved a list of teachers who are in tenure this year, and tenure is a due process right for teachers who show exemplary behavior and have exemplary results through their teacher evaluation and through their scores and through their accomplishments that they have with students. And so teachers are eligible for tenure after 5 years. And so they have to have the highest or next to the highest scores that they can possibly obtain. So level 4 and level 5 teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to have a recommendation of their principal.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are these are staff members who exemplify what it means to be a professional, and they do that. And so we review each of their files, and I think there were about 45 to 50 names of teachers across the county last night that will earn tenure in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
What that is that's a due process for those teachers, and it some people say it's a guarantee of a job, and it's not a guarantee of a job. It just someone who does not have tenure could be let go at the end of the year, just because we might need
Class cuts,
class sizes, anything like that. And so a non-tenured teacher doesn't have those protections that a tenured teacher would. And so when a teacher earns tenure, they have the ability to not get bumped by a younger staff member when it might be because of something like you say staff cuts, and so that it's a similar thing to some seniority.
Mm-hmm.
So a teacher who has that tenure, they don't have to be as worried about changes and movement because of staffing and student needs. Again, I think there's a lot of misperception in the public about what tenure means, and it's not a way to. Some people say it's a way to keep bad teachers. It is not, because tenured teachers can still be let go and they can be dismissed and terminated from their positions. It just means they get more protection rights. They get to be heard. They can go through a hearing with the board if they were facing dismissal or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So it is a big deal for staff to earn that tenure. When I started teaching back a long time ago, all you had to do was just simply be there, and I hate to say put your time in, but after your fourth year, you were eligible for tenure. Didn't matter what your scores
Right.
were. Didn't matter
Right.
what your professionalism was. It didn't matter, those cuts and those basics. But now the state changed that rule. I think it was probably about 8 or 9 years ago when tenure requirements were changed, and so now it is a process, and it is an honor to be eligible for tenure and to earn that. And so this group of tenure teachers will get their notices to them, and as long as they work in Robertson County.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to carry that badge with them that they are a tenured teacher. So we're really excited to do that. If they leave the county to go somewhere else or take time off, they do surrender that and would have to earn that back, go through the process again, or changing districts. And I also say moving into administration, because there is no administration. There's no tenure for
Admin doesn't get a
administrators.
tenure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So those are things that may help answer some questions that people have about what does that mean, and it's really changed, I guess, particularly in the last 15 years or so, over what it used to be, and maybe then it was kind of seen as a protection, and some people thought about that of poor teachers keeping their jobs
Right.
because of tenure, but all that's completely changed.
I think that's good, and I appreciate you addressing it. Just as a teacher myself, I don't fully understand it. I hear about it and those kinds of things, but I've had it explained to me before, so I'm more knowledgeable of it now. But still, just understanding all the parameters on it and about the timeline when that did change.
Right.
Because you've got some that are grandfathered in that have been there for a long time.
Yes.
But they're all, I don't know anyone that's been there for a length that I wouldn't say are exceptional teachers. I've just worked with some of the most exceptional teachers out there. And I'm just, it's so interesting to be on the inside now and understand it so much better. And you just can't, unless you've worked in education, you just don't really get
Right.
what's required and what's
Right.
expected. It's a difficult job. It's a very rewarding job. It's a beautiful job, but it's challenging. It is challenging.
And when we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say old tenure for
Right.
people when I was teaching and in the classroom. Once you had tenure, you never lost tenure unless you resigned, transferred, or moved.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people know in 2012, I left Robertson County Schools to go work in another district.
Right.
Part of that was me giving up my tenure here in Robertson County Schools.
Right.
And so that was a difficult decision to do that. Not that I was worried about my job or things like that, but to have had that for 27 years and to carry that with me. But tenure does not transfer between districts, and so to change jobs after doing that. But again, the tenure changes that would affect newer employees like yourself. Teachers who receive poor evaluations can lose their tenure now. So if you had 2 years of low performing scores, 1s and 2s, so then you would be subject to losing that.
Right.
And so, that answers the question, I think, again, where some people say, well, tenure protects teachers for life. It does not.
Mm-hmm. And that's good to know. And I mean, and there's so many misconceptions about it.
Sure.
And I think, and to this day, even though it's been changed for quite some time, people still, they just assume what you were saying, that it's, well, you get tenure and you're protecting bad teachers, and it's just not the case anymore.
It's not.
It's just not the case.
I think think just a quick way to think about it, particularly from a teacher's standpoint, is there it sometimes protects from what they might perceive as an unfair move or a transfer within the system, or moving people around, swapping jobs, or again, if we had to lay off teachers because of staff change, enrollment change, and things like that, and staffing needs. So, the tenured teachers have that first right to stay in those positions. And again, if other decisions are made by administration, they get a few more protections in terms of due process of being able to sit down and have conversations about it and have, go through a hearing process if they need to.
Very good. And again, that's one of those things. I learn so much every year, but I can remember having to say, are you going to plan to teach next year? And the planning that has to go in to, okay, are we going to have this class? Are you going to make changes? Because people don't know what's in my mind. What I might decide to do. I tell everybody I'm planning on doing this till I'm 75, and Lord willing, I do. Yeah. And my husband and I, we really are loving it. It's our retirement gig, and we are really having fun with it, and we're really enjoying it. But things can change. Sure. Needs in my family could change, and you need to be able to know how to do that, to project, to build your budget, all those things. We've even had situations where enrollments have changed, so maybe we don't need this many English classes or this many math classes, and you have to, those are things inside that you never realize until you've experienced it, and you've been inside where we get those things at our staff meeting and saying we're, making sure what class sizes we need, who's going to do what, do we need this many classes in science, or all of those things, and you have to make adjustments every year.
And those are the exact conversations we're having with principals starting today.
Right.
And so I know we've got some Springfield City School elementary principals coming in this morning and this afternoon, I think. But again, we're going to have 4 conferences today with those. And so part of that will be, do you know of anybody that's already announced that they're going to retire at the end of the year? Because if we do, career fairs and college career fairs will be starting up February, March. So we know when we go out and start looking for these folks, we'll be able to recruit and hopefully bring those people to our district, again, as jobs are posted. And I think we had an announcement during our staff meeting yesterday. We still have some math vacancies, special ed vacancies, and foreign language vacancies. So, there are positions that come open in the classrooms, regularly. And so again, that helps us plan. As you said, nobody knows, who might be thinking about retiring or moving, or somebody gets married and moves out of state or something like that. So that helps us, get that information to our HR department, who can then go out and, is there at a career fair, they can talk to somebody and be as specific. When there's a job at a certain school and a certain grade level, as opposed to just, we might have an elementary school job. It helps them recruit, and it helps us get some resumes and be prepared to start offering contracts for those people. We can get those people lined up.
And it's, I've talked to the principals. I almost feel like I get a little bit of an insight on what you're talking about, because one of the questions I ask them, do you have any openings coming up? I've asked that of every principal that's sat in here. We talk about what they're most excited about, what they're most proud of, but I say, okay, how are you on staffing? Are you foreseeing? I asked that same question. Are you seeing some retirements coming up and kind of the things you're going to need? So it's quite interesting that, we've had some of those same conversations with the principals.
Compare notes.
Yeah, exactly. I need to keep notes from now and say, okay, Dr. Weeks, they're saying. So that way we can kind of get ahead of it. But we're talking with Dr. Danny Weeks. He's the director of schools here in Robertson County. If you have any questions, you can put them up in comments. They didn't have a real busy meeting last night, so we might have some room for that. But what else do you want? I tell you what, let me go ahead and let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Eggs at Prime Realty. Y'all know we always do, because they are our longest running full-time sponsor here. And we just appreciate them so much. But I was saying yesterday that if you Google them, that's when I had Barry in here last week, or maybe it was the week before, but he came in and we were talking about how that he and Rebecca work they work together at the Exit Prime office, but they also have their own thing. She is an agent that works out of White House. She has a different broker. Her husband's not her broker. I think that's hysterical. He's the broker here in Springfield, but together their two offices make Exit Prime Realty, which is the company they've been with since Rebecca got into this. She's been at it a long time, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. But I love talking about how that they specialize in Robertson County properties because they're in Cross Plains. They've been there for 30 years, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. And then right on Rebecca's Facebook page, they had a Kentucky property that is no down payment, financing through USDA rule, and just an example of how they can buy and sell in Kentucky. They're originally from Kentucky like myself, and her broker still has brokerage rights in Kentucky. They've changed some laws. So if you want to buy in Kentucky, you need to make sure your broker is able to broker a deal in Kentucky, and they're able to do that out of the White House Exit Prime office. Now, Barry, I saw, we talk about the surrounding counties, and then he had a listing that popped up. It was real interesting in Nashville, over in East Nashville, a beautiful historic property that they put up a couple of days ago. They started showing it on Sunday. So it's just a good example. By Googling Barry or Rebecca Richards Exit Prime Realty, you'll see what I'm talking about. They do specialize in Robertson County properties, but they have properties in the surrounding counties, across the state line in Kentucky. Whatever it is you're looking for, message them today. You can, again, find them on social media. They have their own unique web pages. You can, of course, give them a call if you would like to give them a call. We always give Rebecca's number. Here is Barry's number, 615-504-7424, 615-504-7424. Hers is just 7425. It's pretty close, but you can reach out to them, or you can go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com, and you can please always let them know U-Turn sent you. Talking with Dr. Danny Weeks. So you got the principal meetings coming up today. Anything else major with the board meeting last night? If it was kind of light, not too much going on?
Not a lot going on. We did talk about we talked earlier about the county commission, and there is an education committee of the county commission. And so they meet with us every other month, and we talk about just keeping them informed so that they can go back and answer questions if they're there. So we will have that meeting on Wednesday. And one thing I'm excited about is I'll be hosting my colleagues on Friday. We're going to have the Mid-Cumberland superintendents coming to Robertson County, and they'll be taking a look around some of our schools, listening to some of our programs, and then State Department people come in and give us some training that professional development that I get.
Oh, wow.
And so there are 16 superintendents in what we call the Mid-Cumberland District. We go all the way from Wilson County, Lebanon schools on the north, all the way over to Stewart County, and all the way down to basically I-40. We take in Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, Metro Nashville. So larger school systems in the state of Tennessee, Clarksville, Williamson County, Rutherford County. So a lot of students represented in that 16 county group. And so we'll come together, have some training. We do this every month. And so January is the month that they come to Robertson County. And so we're excited to have them. We will be at Springfield High School to start our day, and they're going to have some just introductory remarks there from the principal, get to tour the building there. We'll spend time again, the State Department will come in and give us training, and they kind of give us previews of what's coming up for the next year and what's going to, the end of this year and into next year. So that group's going to be here, and so we'll spend a lot of time together and pretty much all day. Wraps up around 3 o'clock, and just a good time with other districts and that networking. And you talked about nobody really understands the teaching job until you do it, and I say the same thing about the superintendency. Everybody. It's a tough job and it's a difficult job, but to have a group of support that we have, and we meet together regularly and talk regularly about how things are done in other districts and how to problem solve. We talk about products that they may be using and strategies they may be using in their school systems to do that. So I'm excited to see those folks.
Well, and it's so interesting because you said that you don't understand the job. I have been fascinated by the things I've learned sitting behind this microphone. That is the responsibility of the director of schools and just how the things work with the director of schools in relation to the county commission, and how, just the way, just to see the way that county government works, city government works, and then to listen. I was listening. My brother was, we're West Kentucky folks, and we were talking and discussing some things up in Mayfield, and the structure just of their city government versus ours here in Springfield is different, and it changes city to city, district to district,
It does. Yeah.
and you have to understand that. And so, does that seem challenging? Because I know that whenever the directors come in from these surrounding counties, their system doesn't necessarily work the way ours does.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's got to be something. It's like, yeah.
I think a lot of it starts with our relationship to mayors, and again, we've got a wonderful relationship with County Mayor Vogel, and learning and developing and working together because we talked earlier about how my principals and my department heads will come to me and ask for things. Well, from a county commission and a county government perspective, the school system comes and makes ask, and the ambulance service comes and makes ask, and the landfill and the highway department. So, all of us, the court system, those, I hate to say they're competing interests because they're not competing. We're all doing what we do for our departments, but we also realize we work for the county, and so the dollars and how they're distributed. But you think about our county form of government, and we'll be sitting next to Clarksville and Williamson County and Metro Nashville. So the Metro Council, we think about that.
Yeah.
So they're considerably different. One of the things that always surprises me is the different sizes of school boards.
Yeah.
The different sizes of county commissions. We have a 24-member commission here. When I was in Dixon, we had a 12-member commission.
Yeah.
So the counties are roughly the same size, but just how the county government structure managed that and worked through that. One of the things that we talk about a lot is the Financial Management Act that our county has in place, which is known as the 81 Act, the Act of 81, I think is the way we reference that quickly. But it establishes that county finance office. And so, when you want to purchase something from your classroom, you get your principal to sign it, your supervisor to sign it, comes to our office, I have to sign it, and then it goes to Uptown Finance and they sign it, and then finally you'll get a green light to go get whatever you need.
Yeah.
I mean, that could take 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
And counties that are not under the 81 Act, you could come down to the office and get the credit card, go buy it, or get a purchase order and go buy what you needed. I mean, just in a day. So it's
that
really
opens
unique.
it up. That's one of the reasons why we always have clean audits, is because of the process,
Yes.
which can be, I will try to, I'll think, okay, I need this. I'm like, I got to get it going because I got to get it approved and all this. And that may be frustrating in the moment, but when it comes to our audits and they're clean, that's the reason it's done that way.
Right.
Because those quick things that you go and purchase that fall through the cracks, that's what messes up your audits. And I mean, it makes sense.
It
makes
does.
sense.
And so as we, as you talk about that, we got a notice yesterday from County Finance Director Jody Stewart, and Ms. Stewart said, sent a reminder that we have clean audits 6 out of the last 7 years, and that's for the entire county. And so, just that excitement that's there, and to know that as not just the school department, but all the departments in the county have that benefit of knowing that there are stewards taking care of our money, and they're being good stewards of those, and it meets those acceptable accounting practices that are set up by the state. And again, those are audited every year. It's county level, and for us, every school has an audit every year. And so, if there are questions about following procedures, following protocol, going through the process, those happen every year.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny, the one that you were talking about, we had 6 out of 7. I can remember whenever the one that wasn't perfect, Mayor Vogel and I discussed it, and it was super minor. It was something that we actually called attention to ourselves and said, oh, by the way, we had to make this change. So that, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to ask Mayor Vogel to be sure, but I believe that was the case. It was something that we were like, we've got to make this correction, and they're like, well, we didn't even notice that. You kind
Yeah.
so it was one of those types of things. I have to ask the mayor, but I can remember that, and so there's a lot of pride that goes into that clean audit, and there's a reason why our government's structured the way it
Yeah.
is.
But
For
I,
sure.
but I do think that's interesting because to be able to sit in the room with your colleagues, and again we as superintendents meet, like I said, we meet with our districts every other month, and but we have statewide conferences where we can sit down and talk, and they're city school districts. We got our superintendent directory yesterday of who all the superintendents are for the 26 year, and it was interesting. My secretary and I were flipping through, and there's some school systems that we saw a school system that had 500 kids in the whole school system. And I said, we've got schools bigger than that. Most of our schools are bigger than
Can't
that
even
entire
imagine.
school system. And then,
I
right.
can't even.
And again, I think we've announced several times that Robertson County is the 14th largest school district in the state of Tennessee. And so, there are people who think, little Robertson County,
No.
rural Robertson County, it's not that way at all. To have 11,000 students, that we're responsible for their families and everything that happens, and taking care of them, making sure they're fed, making sure they're safely transported, making sure that they receive a quality education, and lots of opportunities, whether it's athletically, whether it's student interest clubs, academic clubs, student support organizations that support those. We're responsible for a lot of things, and I'm going to circle back to our first conversation. When even decisions that we make, about the weather and our school calendars, all those things affect families of 11,000 people.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and we appreciate it and appreciate all the work you do. I know it's a lot.
Well, we've got a great
And,
staff. We
yeah,
do.
for
We
sure.
really do.
I'm talking with Dr. Danny Weeks. If you have any questions for our director of schools, you can put those up in comments. It's kind of a laid back day because we are just coming off the holidays. And as you said, really have only been in school, 10 days or so since the last board meeting. So there's not
Right.
a lot going on.
Right.
But as you're getting ready for those principal meetings and kind of seeing what's going on and the anticipation of what's going to be needed and expected for next year, now's the time. Because, before we blink, just like you said, we've got our Martin Luther King holiday coming up on Monday, and then there'll be 4 weeks. It just goes like this.
Right.
We were talking with the kids yesterday about, well, we've got this, and this, and I'm just in my head trying to figure out how we're going to get it all in before spring break, and so it's just, it moves so quickly. And then when we come back from spring break,
Right.
you just try to tie down those seniors
Mhm.
because they've got their eyes on the prize, and they're going to get out a couple of weeks earlier than the other kids.
Right.
So you got to get things wrapped up for them, and it just moves.
Yeah.
So, before we blink, we're going to be into summer. I know it's hard to believe, but it will. It just moves so quickly. So,
And that ties right into we started looking at another report during our board meetings about student attendance and just
that's what I
knowing.
wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, and we've kind of highlighted that the board members asked for some data surrounding and looking at attendance, and so we had conversation about just how can we best report that to the board and how can we do that, and so we've even talked maybe about a little friendly competition between our schools to see what percentage attendance maybe for a certain week or a certain month, and then send some rewards to that school. But this for the month of December, of course we were still reporting on that, but for the month of December, our attendance rate countywide was 94%.
That is fabulous.
And it is. It's
That's
excellent.
really great.
And our highest middle high school was White House Heritage. I think they were at 98, I believe.
Wow.
And Greenbrier Elementary School had our highest elementary school percentage, and I think they were 96. It was either 94 or 96,
Okay.
but still, great attendance for the month of December. An abbreviated month, of course. It was, I think there were 18 or 19 school days during December. But, when you start talking about 94% of the students being there, we're very proud. I think our lowest attendance for the month was 89%, and I think that was our alternative program. So every one of our traditional schools was in the 90% or better for the month of December. So that was exciting.
Excellent.
It is. And, we've talked about the importance of being in school, the importance of, students getting up, getting ready to come back to school, and getting back in those habits. And I think we all kind of, or I did. I know, stayed up a little later than I probably needed to during the Christmas break and slept in a little bit and things like that. But, back to routines, back to normalcy, and doing that. And we've also started looking. The board has asked us to provide information about students that are not attending regularly. So even even our schools that have high attendance rates. So let's say a school has 95, 96% attendance. The state holds us accountable for what we call chronic absentees. And so these are students that miss more than 10% of the school year.
And I have students popping into my brain right now
Yeah.
that I know are struggling, and we all, try to figure out how to help them.
And so our in the accountability model that our schools receive grades for, if their attendance, not just the attendance rate, but if the number of chronic absentees reaches a certain threshold, then they're marked down for that. And so we're held accountable for those students being in school and not being a chronic absentee. So again, that's that would be a student, if they were enrolled with us all year, that means they could not miss more than 18 days.
Yeah.
And one of our board members said last meeting, he said, 18 days, that's a full school month.
It is.
And you think about how difficult, if we missed a month of work or if we missed a month of whatever we're doing, and how difficult would it be to learn our subject or to learn our subject matter that we're in that class and trying to do that. And so there's an emphasis from our board to our principals down to the classroom level and to our families about, making sure we're in attendance and we understand kids get sick and we understand there are things that have to be done. But one thing I'm proud of this board is particularly surrounding our calendar. I think we talked last month, they approved the calendar for the 27-28 school year.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about carrying my family on a vacation, from now until June of 28, I know when those school breaks are going to be. I know when spring break's going to be. I know when fall break's going to be, Christmas breaks, which holidays that the school system is going to observe. So, those, when professional developments are going to be for staff. And, if a family needs to schedule a doctor's appointment on those days when we're not in school in regular session. But that's been something, I guess we've been doing that maybe 4 months, looking at month by month attendance and looking at the number of chronic absentees. And I think the number that we talked about the other night was, I believe it was 135 students have missed more than 20 days or more than a month of school already.
Yeah.
And we're just halfway through the school year.
Like I said, there's a few that come to mind right now that we've had some struggles with. One that, I don't want to get into specifics, but it's just really frustrating. And one of the things, do you think that I think that the being exempt from exams at the final exams has certainly helped our attendance. Have y'all seen a increase there? I think it has been I think it's been a blessing.
I know a lot of families really enjoy that, and some people that may not get to take advantage of that look as a punishment. I mean, it's not a punishment.
It's not. It's just
it's a reward to those students who earn it.
Yeah.
And earning it means that they do plan around events and doctor's appointments and things like that. And, they're all mornings. I guess we get up and the sun may not be shining as bright and it may be a dreary day, but, the ability to go ahead and say, look, we need to get up and go into school and we need to get up and go and do our work. And we're not suggesting kids come to school sick, and we're not suggesting that we, neglect things that we have to do and things that we need to be doing. But, being at school on a regular basis, I think COVID really changed a lot of families' attitudes toward that, and I don't like going back. That's been 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
But if you remember, 6 years ago, the rule that we received from the state was if you're sick, stay out 14 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So to miss 2 weeks right there before you do anything, and so we're past that, and now it's
let's get back to school.
Get back to school and get back to learning. And if if you need to run to a quick doctor's appointment, pick up a prescription, let's do that and get back. And that's for staff as well. We have a staff clinic that people can attend and get in there and get something quick and get it filled, and
makes a difference.
It does.
Well, and one thing too, I pulled up. I took my audio video class, and my broadcast club had the opportunity to go on a field trip last Friday. And we went into WSM Radio. Charlie Meadows and I are old colleagues, and so we were able to work that out. And it was so funny when I brought them in. The original number was too many. I said it could be potentially this many, and Charlie was like, "Man, I don't know if we can get all of them in the studio." And then when I called him back, I said, "Well, it's actually this number because they have to qualify." And he was like, "What do you mean qualify?" And I said, "It is a reward. You do not get to go on field trips. Dr. Osborne's policy is." You don't go on a field trip if you have one unexcused absence, because if you can't get to school, then you don't need to be going on field trips. Yeah. And so that is, and I put that in my news report that the kids, when we were reporting on because it was a really cool field trip. Everybody likes because we got to go to the radio station, we got to go to a TV studio. And so we had some really cool experiences on Friday, but it is a reward. And that's why I was telling Kelly and Charlie at SM, it is a reward. And they were thinking, that's a great idea. Yeah. These are kids who are making sure they're getting to school and they're getting their work done. And in the newscast that we ran Monday and that we'll run on Wednesday, the line is in here, if you want to attend a field trip during the semester, you have to make your attendance in school a priority. To be rewarded with a field trip, you cannot have a single unexcused absence. So if you are sick, be sure to get a doctor's note to cover your absences, or use one of your parent notes. They do get 4 parent notes a year, 2 each semester, if you have family events or personal issues that require you to miss school. So there's, you cannot have these unexcused absences. And so I've reiterated that even in our newscast, just to remind the kids, you want to go on these cool things that we have as rewards. Right. You have to have some skin in the game, and you have to be eligible for the reward. My question is, that is Dr. Osborne's policy. Is that a district-wide policy on field trips or not?
It's not.
Okay, and that's her policy. That's what I was thinking.
Each of our high schools has, and again, that's one of the things I enjoy about our county is, we want all of our students to receive a quality education, no matter which school you attend.
Right.
No matter which school cluster you're in, we want a quality education, and we want to be taught the same thing. So, we don't want to be offering classes in one area that's not offered, and so we want to make that accessible. And remind me, we'll come back to open enrollments after we get through that discussion. Okay. But, if I'm learning, multiplication tables in 3rd grade in Greenbrier, that's what we're also doing in 3rd grade at Watauga. That's what we're also doing in Springfield. That's what we're doing in Joe Burns. And so that consistency among, what's taught, our curriculum that all of our students are exposed to. But the uniqueness comes in, the principal and that leadership team getting together with their community and knowing what's important and knowing where those places are. And so I know, you mentioned privileges like attending a field trip, and I think you have that policy in Greenbrier as well, that seniors don't go to prom if they have so many absences and things like that.
Yeah, and you can get knocked out of prom.
And so that's pretty consistent at most of our high schools, that if you've missed too many days, then you don't go to those special events. And so we let principals of our high schools pick those events that are, meaningful to them and which ones they'd like to enforce. And again, I think that's, it's one of those things that's announced often and it's made known to everyone. It's not got you on the last day before an event like that. And so I'm glad to know that you and other staff members across the county are, putting that information out so that people know that now. So they're not going to be surprised in May when, we come up and we have a field trip opportunity and they didn't, they say they didn't know that, but, just having those announcements out there.
And I think it's a good policy. At first I thought, wow, that seems a little strict, but no, I mean, it's, if you're sick and you come in, if maybe you had the flu, as long as you have a doctor's note that says that you were excused and it was not just, I just didn't want to school.
Right.
But it's about attitude. It's about attitude in as a CTE teacher, something I talk to my kids about all the time. We talk about all the things in audio video, but we also talk about career things and the responsibility of you get up, we talk a lot. I talk to a lot of people who are employing people now, and they say one of the hardest things are people who are not dedicated to get to work. They don't have that work ethic. And I said that work ethic is what this attendance policy is about, is making sure it's a priority. So I really remind mine when we first started talking field trips, if you want to go, this is the policy. Get it right now, or don't. And they'll all bring me their permission slips, and I'll look at them and be like, I don't think so, but sure, I'll put it out there and we'll take a look. But it'll turn out the ones that I'm suspecting probably won't get to go.
Right.
You know, and it's a good policy, but it's a reward thing. Now you had said something about open enrollment. Do you want to get to? We've only got about 5 minutes.
I did, and so let me do that real quickly. So we talked about opportunities to participate in programs, you know, that are, you know, somebody has a desire to attend a school out of zone. So, you know, maybe I live in the Greenbrier zone and there are some particular programs at Springfield that I would like to take advantage of, or maybe I'd like to do that at East Robertson or whatever. So during the first week of April, we will post how many seats are available at the transfer schools.
Okay.
So, you know, for instance, at an elementary school, we'll say there are 5 seats available in 3rd grade and 6 seats available in 4th grade and 2 seats available in 5th grade. And so a parent and a family that sees, you know, maybe they need to go to a different school or for some reason, or could have to do with babysitting, could have to do with
lots of
convenience
reasons.
or whatever
All
reason.
kinds of reasons, yeah.
So on April 1st, we'll announce those seats that are available. And so on a first come, first served basis, they can make application for the seats that are available. In high school, it's a little, you know, it's not as much based on grade level because, you know, students are in there. So it's the capacity of the school more than it is how many seats are available in classes. But, you know, that gives a student who's in good standing the opportunity to transfer to another school. And so those used to be called out-of-zone requests. So if I want to attend a school out of zone, I fill out an open enrollment program during the first week of April. By that, I think it's open for about 9 or 10 days. And so those applications come in, and then we notify those parents, yes, you've been approved to attend that other school. Downfall of that is families would have to provide their own transportation, and they have to remain in good standing. So you mentioned, you know, they can't go somewhere and be a behavior issue. They can't go somewhere and have poor attendance. And so if they are, we're going to have them go back to their school of zone. But you know, a parent who can transport their students to a different school and wants to take advantage of that, most of that's for programming. You know, if there's somebody wants to take your class that lives in the Joe Burns zone, you know, they can apply for that out of zone, that open enroll cluster date, and we'll let them know if that's available or not.
Well, you know, and is that a situation? I know we have a teacher that's child transferred into Greenbrier from another school. So did she have to go through that open enrollment process, or is it a teacher? How does that work for teachers? Because I know that comes up a lot with teachers. It does.
Yeah, that's an employment benefit for our staff.
Okay.
So if you're enrolled, if you're employed by us, you have that opportunity to carry your students.
Okay, very good. I wasn't sure how that worked because, and it's quite interesting. The child was interested in the program that we have in audio video and said, I really think that's what they're wanting to do. So we had that situation just recently. But, you know, again, you've got kids maybe are eligible to go to Springfield to tap into an audio video program through the trade school. But there are things that my program does that they're not doing quite yet at Springfield. So if you want what my program is, you would have to come to Greenbrier. And so there's possibilities of that and just different things. You see, okay, I see what's going on over here, and that's the only school I see that in. So I want to be able to, what is the program that they do out at White House Heritage that's, it's a lab. It's
Biomed.
Yes. That's the only school that's being offered in, isn't it?
Correct.
So if you wanted, that's a very unique thing.
It is.
So, you know, there's that. So, you know, those different things, but I think it's cool. And so that's in April.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Anything else we need to cover? We're down to a minute before the top of the hour. So we're there.
Close, yeah.
You know, we didn't have a ton to talk about. I think we both were kind of like, well, are we going to be able to fill an hour? But we always come up with something, don't we? So very good. I appreciate you. Dr. Danny Weeks, our director of schools. If you need anything, his door's open. Just reach out. But go through the chain of command. If you've got something happening in your school, let's just remind people of that. If you've got something happening in your school, talk to your teacher, talk to the admin, you know, go the route. That's the way you should do things, and I hope everybody will to keep his office from getting bombarded. Let's just say that. But thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And I'm excited for the new school year and beyond. So we'll see. We're just excited for everything here in Robertson County. As Mayor Vogel says, we're blessed. We get to live and work in Robertson County.
Right.
Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow is StayPositive.News Day. So we'll be visiting with them and get all the insight on the positive news of the communities here in Robertson and Sumner County. I hope you'll come and be a part of that. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.